Ladies and gentlemen, super excited for tonight's conversation. Maggie Guterl, and I nailed the last name. I knew I would. I wasn't even nervous about it. No, I was going to joke. You know, the name of the show is Chasing Greatness, but we're in the presence of greatness. I just got to tell you how excited I am to pick your brain. No, very sincerely, for everybody listening, I'm going to do my best to give Maggie a proper introduction. I'm going to butcher it because your resume is so long. All these things that you've accomplished are just so cool. A seasoned ultra runner. You right now work for Tailwind. You're the athlete and event manager. I knew I would mess up something. But also such a long list of accomplishments, and I'm just so excited to be able to pick your brain. Notably, you were the first ever female to finish Big's or to win Big's Backyard Ultra, which I guess is also the only finisher too. Everybody else DNFs. Cocodona 250 finisher. You've finished Hardrock 100. You've got a column with Ultra Running Mag and so many other things. And I just feel like I'm sitting across the table from somebody with like all this information I just want to pull from you. And I just want to thank you so much for giving me some of your time and letting me pick your brain, because I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I mean, I racked all that kind of like experience up from aging. You know?
Right, yeah. From just sticking around long enough.
It'd be impressive if you can do all those races by the time you're 21, yeah.
Which, by the way, is today your birthday?
It was yesterday.
Okay, I meant to ask you about that.
Yeah.
Happy birthday. Happy belated birthday.
Thanks, yeah.
Speaking of, sticking it out and sticking with it, which is actually a perfect segue to some of the stuff I'm so interested to pick your brain about. Is I want to get into your mind a little bit. You had just mentioned kind of, this list of accomplishments being a result of sticking it out and age and, sticking with things for such a long time. You do that you do that on so many different levels, but especially with your running and your career and just all of the things that you do. I would love to hear where all that has started, because I know, like you had mentioned, you weren't always have this long resume. I would love to hear kind of the beginning story for you of where you sort of realized that you had a knack for endurance. When did you start running? Like, when did you start to realize that you had this skill set?
Yeah, I mean, my skill set is being stubborn and like gritty and just trying again and again. So, I mean, ultra running fit perfectly, but when I started running, I didn't know ultra running was a thing anyway. And then I think in retrospect, when I look back at my childhood, there are signs that oh, this is my thing. But again, it never clicked that I would just purely run or maybe it wasn't the right time. But I did recently, I was looking through when your parents, you come home and you're like an adult and they're like, here's all your baby stuff we saved forever, like papers, drawings that you did and things, and you're like, I don't want this. I don't have room for this.
Right.
So you just go through it and you take pictures of the things you think are cool or whatever, and you just get rid of the rest of it. And there was this letter I wrote to my parents when I was I don't remember what age, but I was in grade school, and I went to a school called St. Agnes. It was a Catholic school, and I said it was a letter to my parents thanking them for sending me there because they have a track program, and a lot of other schools didn't have track. I don't know why I thought that, because most schools have track. It's pretty cheap.
But it felt unique.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, I love track and I love running, and thanks for sending me to this school. The public school had track. But I don't know. I guess I didn't know that. But I was obviously interested in running then, and I liked it. And then, I kind of lost interest and got into other things. And then in college, I started running with a friend when I went to school in Brooklyn. So it wasn't until my early 30s, late 20s, early 30s that I was started to get interested
serious.
in endurance running, and only marathons. I was like, oh, that's the ultimate goal. And then, 2010 or something around there, there was an ultra in Philly, and I was like, what is this? These people look miserable, but it was still super intriguing to me. So I think that's where it all started to I was really interested to find out what the wall was like in the marathon.
Right.
Everyone talks about the wall. And, I made through mile 20. I was like, oh, that's not that bad. But I think my wall came at 17 when I was drinking Gatorade and I was like, oh, no offense to Gatorade or anything, but yeah. And then 20 was like a smooth sailing, and I feel like I finally hit my groove and finished. And I was like, never again. And then you're looking for another marathon, and then eventually it just happens with ultras. So
isn't it crazy how that line can move? Like I remember, so I ran my first full marathon. And I think 2019 I did. And I remember when I finished, like being, how in the world do people run more than that? Like there is no way I could even, take another step. And then you start to kind of see, I don't know, then it sort of evolves. But I'm curious, one thing I'm interested in, and I don't know if you have insight in it or not, but I think it was interesting that when you were very, very young, you kind of had this, at least I'm assuming, this perspective of kind of the glass half full, and I almost picked up on kind of a gratitude perspective for you to be, at that school writing a letter to your parents, thanking them that they had a track program.
Yeah.
I'm curious because I actually just recently I'm working on a presentation right now about, and I'm doing some parallels with running 100-miler and like enduring business and life and, careers and whatever.
There's a lot of metaphors.
I'm working on it. Yeah. And it's hard to pull them all, but one of the parts of it, I've been looking at the power of the mind. And then part of that is how impactful gratitude is and how it really like literally changes our physical experience. I'm just curious if that's a common trait of yours or if that was a one-off in that, that story that you had shared of kind of being grateful that there was a track program.
I don't know. I want to think that I was this gracious child, but I'm sure as a little, I don't know. It could have been that the school said, write a letter to your parents thinking, I have no idea.
For something. Okay, yeah.
Let's say I was just the sweetest little child. But I mean, as you get older and like more mature and like things happen, you have to find like, I think that, I've been dealing with an Achilles injury the last 2 years and things have been happening that are like not so great. And I've been reading a lot about stoicism because and I just kind of started to like reach at things to see like what could help you like improve your mind and like your state of mind to get through these like really hard things that are more than just like physical. And I think one of those is just kind of like being grateful for just like what the positive is, whether it's like the tiniest little shred of like, oh, our boat's sinking, but at least we still have this door to float on or something like things like that. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely something I've been trying to focus on. I don't know that I know I didn't know about stoicism when I was like
not intentionally
8.
At least. Yeah. Yeah. But I'd assume there's some of that, like and I don't know this for sure, but I would imagine some of the traits that have contributed to your success have been there all along, but you've honed them in or like pulled them out. You know what I mean? I was going to talk to you about your injury. I wasn't going to dive right into that, but I'm interested. What's harder, finishing Big's backyard or being injured?
Oh, being injured because when you had so I run Big's 4 times and the 2019 time, I think was the time that I ended up being the last person standing. And this isn't always how it is, but every day or loop in that 2019 race felt just not effortless, but like everything was under control and like I had it down and things were aligning. Even when things like hurt or like, like something would be off, like I had a lot of weird IT band pain, which I never have to deal with. Like you just address it and keep going. And so, yeah, this has... And that it's going to end. You're like, just keep going. It'll be over. You know what I mean? The race will end. And you just keep going until they're, at that point it was just Will Hayward, who's the assist, they call it.
Right.
And I was like, just keep it together. But the Achilles thing has like kind of no timeline.
Yeah.
So you're like, is this forever? Like, so that's the frustrating part. But you kind of just be like, concentrate on what I can do. I can't do a ton of volume. I mean, maybe I need to I've tried everything except for like, seeking second opinions on like surgery or something. But anyway, we don't have to delve into that. But like I have gotten really into strength. Like, I always lifted and did exercise, like strength exercise with like dinky dumbbells. But like just in the last 2 years, I've been like, oh, let's go heavy, which is like never something I thought was important. which is partly because of Melissa. Please say her last name.
McGoy.
Yeah, that you had on your show. You know, she kind of did a little clinic at the Vault on like aging women athletes, like, and one of the really important things is like lifting heavy. Like women are afraid to lift heavy.
I know.
I mean, I have been lifting heavy for 2 years and I didn't bulk up at all.
I was gonna say,
in fact, I lost
you're so
weight.
bulky. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, and I guess like a lot of women are like, oh, I can't lose weight. You get older and it's hard. Your metabolism slows down, and you know, maybe with endurance athletes, even you feel like you're like just not the same. And I think the one thing that we are missing is lifting heavy weights.
Right. Yeah.
It's so important. I feel so great. I feel like the fittest I've been in like my entire running career.
Right now,
it's just frustrating. Yeah, and yeah, even with like if I can go and do a bunch of vert, my Achilles hurts, but my legs feel totally fine.
Yeah, gosh.
Yeah, and it's frustrating because I feel like I can't go test that in a race, but I also feel like I don't need races to like enjoy going in the mountains and doing all like what I want to do. I just want to be able to go out there and be confident I can get myself out without being like in a ton of pain.
Trouble. Yeah. Well, you know, it's interesting. Melissa told me too, just speaking about females specifically and lifting weights, that another huge thing that holds most female athletes back is that they underfuel.
Yeah.
They don't eat nearly enough
That's
food.
not my problem, but yeah. You got to eat the right things. But yeah, I don't think that's ever been my issue. But I can see how, that's a thing.
Right. I'm just interested with, because, you know, and the injury, it's just been, I'm fascinated with it, to be totally candid, on a personal level. I've been battling injury my whole running career. I have always issues with my left leg. I had surgery on it when I was very young, and it's just never been the same, and it's just always there. And I get so messed up mentally when, like, I find myself feeling extremely frustrated that I could be more than I am, but my dang leg keeps holding me back. And it's been frustrating. So I'm just kind of curious, like, how you compare. I just love to hear like how you're, and it sounds like you're doing a really good job of still finding adventure and joy, not racing, but in other ways. I'd love to hear more about like how you're finding the balance and, you know, not getting into the pity party side of it.
Yeah, I just kind of, I have a few activities that I gave myself a goal to train for Iron Horse, which is our, you know, for anyone not in Durango, it's a 50-mile road race over the passes here, and it's kind of like a rite of passage for being a Durangoan or Durangatang.
Right. Got to beat the train to Silverton.
Yeah, I don't know if I beat it. I don't know if I technically beat it. It was like a little over 3:30, and I think you have to be under.
Right.
So maybe I'll have to do it again.
There we go.
I thought I actually, like, leading up to May, was able to run more, so I trained less for that than I thought, but it's still fine. It was fun. So I did a lot of cycling. You know, I have a mountain bike. I don't love mountain biking as much. Road cycling is terrifying just because of the drivers here or anywhere. But then climbing and lifting, I've kind of been able to balance out, you know, all that stuff. And I can still run a little bit as long as I don't overdo it. Yeah.
I love that. It kind of gives me hope to see your, I don't know, that you're finding other outlets for all of this stuff. And because I actually today went on my first ever road bike ride.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I hated every second. I didn't.
You'll get more used to the cars, which I don't know if that's a good thing, but
yeah,
you get a good workout. Whereas I feel like in a mountain bike, you're going really slow, and you get your heart rate up going up the little climbs. But like, it's not like road biking where you can like really just get your heart rate going for like a long amount of time.
Right. That was the biggest thing. I borrowed my coworker's bike today. I was going to go to the gym and do a stationary bike, and I was like, can I at least get outside
really nice
and borrow your bike? Yeah. And the biggest thing I realized is that I could definitely get a good workout on a bike, but it will take way longer than a run. Like if I needed to, I could get a really good workout in 30 minutes, probably running, like if I'm, cranking. On the bike, it's going to take an hour and a half at least to like really get a good workout. Right. But it was kind of fun. I at least enjoyed it.
I mean, you can go ride up Florida 5 miles and come
Yeah,
back. And
that's
that
what
would be a
kicked my
good
butt.
workout.
I did end up going up there a little ways. Yeah, it was.
I mean, but that climb takes me 20 minutes or so or something. I don't know. It's pretty slow.
Right. Yeah. How did you end up in Durango? You said you're from Brooklyn?
I'm from outside of Philly originally, Westchester, Pennsylvania. I went to college in Brooklyn.
Okay.
And then I moved back to actually live in Philly for like over 10 years, 12 years, I forget. Timelines, I don't know. And then I moved here in 2019 when I got the job with Tailwind Nutrition.
That's what brought you here.
Yeah.
How cool. How did you walk me through that? Were you specifically looking for a job in the endurance industry, in the ultra world, or was it more from the events and sponsorship side of it?
Yeah, it wasn't my passion for events, but I wanted to stay in like the running outdoor industry. And I had worked for a company called Nathan Sports, and they make the hydration packs.
Yep.
They were based in Philly, and they had gotten bought, I think, a few months after I started there. So it was like a whole transition. Long story, ended up in marketing, which is super cool. That's how I got into marketing in the first place.
Right.
It was like a supernatural fit because like I am, or a natural fit, supernatural, not like ghosts.
A very
natural
fit.
fit. And then, and then a lot of transitions as you get bought by another company, and eventually everything moved to Southern California. And I think there was a few of us standing still in Pennsylvania, and at that point we're remote, and none of us wanted to move to Southern California. So it was time to look for something else, and I was like, me and my boyfriend Ryan were talking about going to Colorado. I was like, well, maybe it'll just be a little earlier than we said. And so I was looking, and I used Tailwind Nutrition. So I reached out to a friend that I used to work with at Nathan, and I was like, well, here's the brands I really want to work for. And Tailwind was one of them. And she's like, my friend just started, she as the director of marketing there. She's looking to hire like athletes and events manager. And I was like, perfect. And, started the interview process and whatever. And then, kind of had all things kind of happened pretty quickly, and had to get out of our lease and move everything over cross country to here.
How cool. I'm interested. So I think that's really unique that you sort of took the approach from a new job, new career. It seems to me like your priority was brands that you either used or were aligned with your values or that you enjoyed or whatever, more so than the title or the job or the role or the pay or anything. Is that a safe assumption? Because you kind of put that list down of brands. I'm interested by that.
Well, I had been working with our athletes and ambassadors at Nathan too, so that worked out perfectly because that's something I was really passionate about wanting to stick with.
Right.
And they needed someone to run that program, and it's a small company, so it comes with multiple roles. So events was part of it. So that took up a ton of time when I started. I was like, there was little time for athletes and ambassadors. I know it was just a lot of events, but
right.
That was pretty cool in the beginning because I have not seen a lot of the West. So, I drove all over, hung out in Idaho and Nevada and all these other places. So it was really a good way to see like this entire second half of the country.
Yeah.
But here is really cool. So 2020 came around, and I was not sad that everything to be stuck here. Like I still had friends in New York, and I was like, wow, you guys have it really terrible. Like they didn't go outside. They had curfews. I mean, nothing was open. They had lines out the Wendy's and Burger King, right. Whatever the drive-thrus were. People would wait for hours in their car because that's how they got food. And there's like a lot of fear and stuff like that, and it's scary. But here, okay, we have these trails, like we're stuck and running on these trails where you see no one.
We just went outside.
Yeah, it was great. It was cool, and I got to really explore the mountains and finally see where I lived, and that was a cool year for me, at least.
I bet.
Because I got to slow down.
Yeah. Were you doing much mountain running before then, or was this kind of your first introduction to the ultras in the West and the mountain running out here?
Yeah, I had visited Colorado 3 different summers and did 14ers, like normal stuff you do. Paced Leadville a bunch. I'd done Run Rabbit. All those were pretty tough coming from sea level.
Yeah.
But it was fun, and I was like, this is awesome. So yeah, I mean, I was like, oh yeah, I'll get here and I'll just nail mountain hundreds and stuff, and that's not been the case.
No,
I
two
still have
hundreds.
not nailed that. Yeah, that at least is a bit lower, so that was nice. A mountain 200 would be really tough.
That
I
would
guess
be very
Tahoe's
tough.
pretty high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was more joking that it seems like the longer the distance, the better you do. Is that a safe assumption?
Sometimes I think I'm not super fast, so yeah, hundreds are even kind of short, and they've gotten really fast. Like,
Yeah.
There's a group of younger people coming in that are super fast, where it's
Flying.
like, yeah, we say like no one's going to beat or touch Courtney's times for a long time, but maybe when she gets out of the game, and it'll be like 5 more people that are touching her times. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you never know.
Well, and that's what I love. So you just mentioned pacing Leadville. I just paced at Leadville this last weekend, and it was my first time experiencing Leadville, and it was life changing. Like it was the coolest experience. I ran from Twin Lakes to Outward Bound. So it was like, I think it's a 16 mile stretch there. But we got to go through a few of the aid stations, and it was in the middle of the night. And so I just got to really experience the energy.
Yeah.
And then obviously we hung out at the finish line for the golden hour, which, all that stuff. But it's interesting, you talk about like these records, like with Courtney just blowing them out of the park, and, maybe people coming up or whatever. I think one of the coolest things about the sport is that it sort of changes our ideas of what's possible, whether it's distance or speed. Like,
Yeah.
did you ever think growing up that you would run 250 miles?
No, I didn't even think that when I was running 100 milers and the 200s came up, and I was like, I feel like that's a lot of hiking, like just too much hiking for me. And then that's like, now I live in the mountains. Like people say they do mountain runs, but it's so much hiking.
The Hardrock 100, I think that I've heard them joke about. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it really is. Like even Courtney and Killian and Ludo, they're all hiking. Like, I mean, they're doing a lot of running too. But
A lot of running.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, like, I don't know. I'm interested to know, how does it feel? Like because I remember when I ran my only 100, it felt wild. It feels crazier now that I was just at Leadville. Now that I got to see kind of the other half of it, like I feel like when I ran my 100, I was so in the zone of it that the significance didn't really sink in. I just did it, and I'm very proud of it. Like, don't get me wrong, but seeing it from the other perspective is there. I'm just kind of curious. Did you ever think that you'd be able to run 250 miles, and what does it feel like to know that you have?
It feels good just because I don't know if I'll be able to get to that point where I'm that durable, where like, I mean, if I had to, I could go run 250 miles, I think, but it would be like super painful, more than it needs to be. And I'd probably limp, and then I probably wouldn't run for a year because
Right.
like I'd be so wrecked. So it's cool to know that I could do that. Yeah, I mean,
Like, walk me through it. 100 miler to 2, because I'm at
it's
the
more
stage
about
right
the
now
sleep
where,
deprivation, really. When
but even the you signing up, even like that leap feels so massive to me, going from the 100 to the 200.
it's a natural progression now.
Yeah, I guess,
Yeah.
right? So it just felt like it was time.
Well, yeah, I'm buddies with Jameel Curry, who's like started the Cocodona 250, and just hearing him talk about it in the course, and like, I didn't grow up, I never lived in a desert, so I thought that was a super foreign landscape that would be cool to check out, because you go from kind of one desert to a higher desert, and there's so many different areas you go through that are unique, like Sedona, and there's another area, I'm blanking on what it is, but there's like all these low shrubs, and supposedly it's really hot. I went through there at night, but and then you're going to the mountains in Flagstaff, whereas you were like in these canyons before. And I thought it'd just be a cool way to see a whole bunch of Arizona.
Yeah.
That's really what it's like about, just like good way to see everything.
That's the driving factor. That was the motivating factor for you. A cool way to see new country.
Yeah.
Really?
And really experience it. Like, there's like this horrible where you're like, what am I doing? But then you get this like euphoria of like, I'm doing this. And like, there's moments that are like, it's called the Bradshaws or whatever. There's like the one mountain, I think they were on fire for the second year, so they had to skip that part. But it's so wild. I was like, is this even a trail? Like, and I'm going up and down these like little like hills. And I felt like I was being watched. There's probably mountain lions everywhere.
Right.
And the sun was setting. It was just like super cool. It was like frustrating terrain, but like at the same time, like, dude, how many people have run this trail? Probably
Yeah.
not that many.
What a cool perspective to have on it and a mindset.
Yeah.
Like, do you enjoy the whole time? Like, are you able to really
No,
maintain
not the whole
that
time,
mindset?
no.
And yeah, well, but generally speaking, you're viewing it through that lens.
Yeah. I mean, there'll be like sunrises and sunsets are always really cool. Running at night's pretty fun. Yeah, you're super tired, but it's fun to each have like a different pacer join you. I mean, a lot of people do, not a lot, but there's one way to do it is just no pacers and just kind of like in it, which is something I kind of experienced just doing the collegiate loop in Saltwatch, which is like 160 miles. So it's 3 days of my own, which is different. It's not a race, but just having each pacer kind of join you for this like adventure, it's super fun.
Yeah. So walk me through that. Like the collegiate loop, for example, you just decided to do that by yourself, 160 mile through the peak. I want to know more about that. Like what I'm trying to get to, what's driving you to go do these huge things, because a lot of people, I think, well, I don't know this, but I understand races because there's the race and there's the buckle and there's the glory and you get to have your name on ultra sign up and all that stuff. But to go and just do 160 miles for 3 days by yourself is amazing. I mean, it's remarkable. I want to know like what motivates you to do that when you were thinking about that one, for example. What was the driving force behind making you want to even go do that in the first place?
I was interested in doing the whole Colorado Trail self-supported because I don't know if I helped, but I paced Courtney a bunch for her attempt at the Colorado Trail when she did it supported. And I saw what her and Kevin went through, and Kevin's amazing with logistics and all that and spreadsheets, and that was like a little too much for me. And, Kyle Curtin, our local guy here, just beat the supported record overall for any variation. And I'm impressed because I don't know that he was that much of a planner, but it was just dialed perfectly.
Yeah.
That sounds like a lot to me. So I just kind of like thought about the simplicity of, and I'm not a big fan of carrying tons of weight. I know there's 2 people out there right now trying for the unsupported, but that's so much weight. It's like 40 pounds of food. I have no idea, but it's a lot. So with the self-supported style, you can drop, yourself buckets so you can refill every 3 days or something.
Right.
That was going to be my plan and try to aim for whatever 9 days or 8 days or whatever the record was. So I was like, oh, cool. The collegiate loop's perfect. Like, I want to aim for just under 3 days. That's 3 days worth of food. I can kind of dial this, see if it's for me, see if my Achilles is going to hold up and how that's going to go. And yeah, I did it. It's super fun. At the time, like my mind was like, what? Why am I doing this? Like, I didn't want to be doing it. But I was like, well, I'm not going to call my friend Paul to come pick me up. So I have to finish the loop.
You got to finish it, right.
My feet were super painful, right? I got a massive heel blisters from mile 20. Like, I don't know what was going on.
From early
And I
on.
wonder if it's just because I run differently now with the Achilles thing that I'm getting these blisters. Like, I have no idea. It was horribly painful. But now all I can think about is, like, all the fun that I had and, like, the cool experiences and the mornings waking up. Like, I had hiked all night. And I slept in this part where I did in the dark with Courtney. And I was like, I don't know what this area looks like. And then I woke up and it was like still dark, but I was like running through sunrise. And it was just like super cool. It was on the collegiate west part. And it was just awesome to see like all of that, And I love this kind of creepy scariness of running in the dark myself.
Yeah. I was just going to ask if you got scared at all.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely collegiate east is more scary because you're in the trees. I feel like above tree line doesn't bother me. That's super fun. But
That's interesting. So I have the same thing, and I don't know why. But if I have good visibility, I'm not nervous.
Well, like mountain lions, I think don't hang out above tree line. I think they
something
like the
about
trees.
in the trees for me gets a little bit
it's darker.
Yeah,
and it's just creepier. Yeah, I remember climbing up. I was somewhere near Mount Yale, and I tried to sleep. I forget what the name of the the little trailhead is, but I tried to sleep on my last night, just take a nap, but it was so cold, and this mouse kept coming up to me to like it was trying to like crawl in my food, and I didn't take out any sleeping stuff. I was so cold, so I was like, I'll just keep climbing, and I was like climbing through the trees, and I was like, they're super big, tall trees, and it was just so eerie.
It's crazy.
And I was like, I'm just gonna keep going. I'm sure as the heck not gonna sleep on the trail here.
Right. Yeah.
And so I finally took a nap after sunrise in this big above tree line little grassy area. It was perfect. But yeah, the Collegiate East is way creepier, I think.
Yeah. It's just, well, I'm curious, how come do you think, because one of the things I've contemplated about ultras and even just like these big effort endurances, there's something about them that like fills us up. It charges our souls, you know. I'd love to hear your take on, because you always have had, you always are pushing yourself, like redefining boundaries and limits and doing these huge adventures that I didn't even know about that one, and like all these things that you do. I'm just kind of curious your perspective on how that translates to how we feel afterwards or before, and kind of the recharge that we get from it. What's your take on that?
I mean, I think if I do anything outside where there's no roof over my head and I can just be outside is recharging, and the bigger adventures recharge you more. So I think it's just about that. And sometimes like a race is cool because there's a goal and you're like, oh, cool. The goal is set for me. Like I'll go do that. There's logistically easier people, there's friends around you, whatever. Or you can make the goals on your own, or like be like, oh, this morning I'm going to run up engineer, because like who gets to run up like a almost 13er right before a 9 a.m. meeting,
Right.
Which I haven't done this year, but I did it. I've done it a few times. Like you just get up there super early and you hike up Pass Creek, which is in the trees in the dark. And like summit a mountain at sunrise, run back down and go to work.
Yeah. We
That's
should do
pretty
that.
cool.
We should do that before the end of the summer.
Yeah, we should.
That would be way fun. I'd be all in on that. Let me know.
Oh, good, because it's hard to get people to be like, hey, you want to meet at 5 a.m.?
Oh, no. Let me know. I'll meet you at 4 a.m. and we'll go get it
Sweet.
done. Us slow guys can stick together.
Yeah,
But
I like to leave myself 3 hours, but it won't take that long.
Yeah.
But it's good window, so you don't have to
But I'm curious because, so do you think it's being outdoors? It's the adventure, it's the physical activity, or because even like right there, you had some, who gets to, like there's something more there of like your perspective on even the word of get to versus have to, or like should, or, whatever. I just want to hear more of, I'd love to get into your mind a little bit on that. Like, where does that perspective of, it's almost like, because I can sense this kind of like excitement and passion and love for it all, that like even the words of, again, who gets to, just walk me through that. I just think it's so unique.
Well, I don't know. I guess there's certain people that see a mountain and they're like curious about what does it look like from the top. Or like there's other people, they see mountains and they're like, they're beautiful mountains. I don't need to go up there. Which is like, okay, I was talking to the woman who does my hair named Hannah, and she grew up here and she's super cool. But she's never looked at Smelter and been like, I want to go up there.
Right.
So she's never been up Smelter. But that's just some people. Like, they're like, I don't need to go up there. Like, and there's other interests.
I'm good
and there's
here.
the
Yeah.
people like my friend Wiley right now is like next level. She's out on a 6-day trip by herself. She's what people call peak bagger. She's an ultra runner, but really that's her passion, is she's trying to get, she's clicking through them, but every 13er and ranked 13er in Colorado.
Wild.
I forget how many there are. But she's out doing a big trip now. Just have her Garmin, and me and my friend Megan Hicks in Silverton are just watching her buzzer and
how cool
her Garmin, her little ping
the
thing.
pings. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's just checking those off, and that's what like recharges her, and she needs to be on top of the mountains. And like, I feel that way too. I don't go to the extreme she does, but also I have a more traditional job. She's a mental health crisis counselor in Gunnison County, so she rides along with the cops.
Oh,
so like
wow.
when there's like but so her schedule allows her like 6 days off, or
Right.
she'll be on call for 48 hours or whatever. But she chose that career just so she could also do that. Like she likes what she does, but that schedule allows her to do this stuff, which is really cool.
And tell me more about that too, because that's another unique thing about you is you've got more of a traditional job. You also have you do a lot of things even beyond your job. Like you were just talking about when you were doing the live broadcasting at Hardrock, which by the way, I also noticed that you were maybe going to run. So I want to talk about how that felt too. But before I do, the broadcasting, the column, all of your other things that you do, plus all of your athletic and adventure endeavors. How do you balance it all?
Well, I think that also now that Kyle Curtin posted something yesterday which said after years of taking, like being crude and whatever, especially after the Colorado Trail, he got to give back and run the aid station. He ran the aid station at San Juan Softy, the one before we did. And I was like, that's a cool perspective to put it into. I feel like I've been taking, and now I got to also work the aid station, instead of running, like instead of I think if I was totally healthy, I would have been like, I'm going to sign up for that too. But instead, I was like, I'll work the aid station. This guy, Jack Breesley, that runs a Telluride aid station for Hardrock, asked me to. And I was like, cool, super cool backcountry aid station. I think it's amazing. Like, I thought this was like a little case of imposter syndrome when Amy Clark, the editor of Ultra Running Magazine, asked me to do a column. I'm like, I don't know anything. And then I was like, wait, I've screwed up so much stuff and like learned so many things. I do like know some things. And I was like, also like, it's supposed to be fun. So like, whatever. So that's been fun to write this column. And like, even if 2 people a month were like, I love your column. Like, it's super cool. That was great advice. It's just like super rewarding to do that. And then the commentary, like just to be able to kind of like participate, in some way and be part of the race and like such a different perspective has been super fun. It's kind of funny the thing you can think of at 3 a.m. to just like ramble on. Right. And, like, I never rewatch stuff. I don't want to know what I said.
I watched almost all of it.
Yeah.
I was glued. It was just
funny.
Fun to see.
Yeah. I mean, Andy Jones-Wilkins and Chris Warden are like pros, like at commentary.
Right.
But yeah, there are people that are really inexperienced.
You guys
and
did
they just
great.
Crush it because they.
Was that your first time?
I did it last year too.
Okay.
Yeah, because I wasn't in. So last year I didn't expect this, but I made it to the first person on the wait list the night before.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah,
about.
so I was like, I should have taken my name off because I'm not ready. But I was like, well, at this point, if my name gets picked, I'm going to start. I'll just go slow or whatever. And thank God it didn't get picked. So then I just hopped onto the live stream. We did our regular schedule.
Right.
And then, I was supposed to run this year 10 days before I paced Kyle on the Colorado Trail, which I don't regret. I think I'd rather have that experience, I think, than another Hardrock. And it's probably a blessing in disguise because if that bothered me, I had another injury pop up. That was probably a compensation injury from the Achilles. It was like a tibialis thing. Yeah. That probably would have popped up during Hardrock. So luckily, it was only a 22-mile section with Kyle. And it didn't go away and kind of did everything I could and had to drop out the Monday before Hardrock. But then you get to pivot, and I got to do commentary.
Do it again, yeah.
Whatever.
And by now it's your second time, so you were an expert.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I got like the 3 a.m. graveyard shifts because the schedules are already filled.
Right.
So I was like, wherever you can use me, and like, you never sleep for Hardrock weekend anyway. So
yeah. Tell me more about that. You just said that you didn't regret it, and that you would have rather experienced pacing Kyle than another Hardrock.
Yeah.
Explain that to me.
Well, I mean, that's honestly, and I've got to witness Courtney race, and that's amazing too. But like seeing Kyle, the way he executed the Colorado Trail, I mean, he was in a way, it was like, it's like he read the book on stoicism for that run. Like he put together this very small but perfect crew. And he was even saying like, everything's just falling in place for this. Like certain things like, that section we did, Elk Creek, there were supposed to be like 90 something down trees, and the Forest Service wasn't supposed to get to them until 2 weeks after we were through. We climbed over one tree. Like, that was it.
Wild.
Yeah.
So you feel like you would have rather had that because of the learning experience that
just
was with it?
Just to get to be a part of it. Like, it was super cool, and I enjoyed, like, just witnessing Kyle. Like, his mood was just so great. And it's like, what, he's on day 5 going into day 6. Like, it was crazy. Like, really cool to witness.
When you're having those experiences, or, pacing with Courtney, or all these things, even when you're getting to commentate and spectate, or, when you're in more of that, I'm just going to call it an observer role or a support role, are you learning things? Are you pulling? Like,
I would hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I'm absorbing, and then one day I'll get to employ that into like some big, long, effort at some point.
Because those in and of themselves are remarkable experiences.
Yeah.
Pacing Kyle, pacing Courtney, doing these things. Like, the resume, like I mentioned in your intro, that's long and impressive, and everybody can see that. I almost wonder, some of that behind the scenes stuff, how cool to get to like intimately experience those things and be the observer and the supporter. It almost kind of comes back to what you were talking about giving now, and I don't know, being able to kind of contribute. I'm just kind of curious if when you're doing that, are you just present, experiencing the moment, or are you being intentional and like observing stuff? What's going on in your mind do you realize how cool it is too? Would be another follow up to that question.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just like, you're going to go run with a friend and anything could happen. And yeah, obviously you learn things, or how they deal with certain situations, or how they come into their crew.
Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely take them like, oh, that's a good idea. Like, as simple as the way they carry like a flask of Tailwind, to how they deal with, their shoe falling apart or something. Right. I don't know. Like, it's just like different things,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's wild. Yeah. I forgot what I was going to ask you there. Oh, well, this was my first time like crewing and pacing at Leadville. I have a whole new appreciation for crewing and pacing.
Yeah. It's hard.
It's just as I was going to say just as hard as running, but maybe not, but it is very, very, very challenging.
Yeah.
It's just wild.
I think it's easy when you're pacing not to take care of yourself.
Right. Oh, I remember.
And that gets really hard. I mean, but, it's just cool. You're just kind of like your own mini ultra to just get your runner to the next handoff or something.
Do you feel pressure when you're in that role? Like when you're in more of the support pacing
sometimes
role?
I mean, I was in 2021, I was supposed to pace Courtney the last 20 miles. I was supposed to go Chapman to the finish with her or something in 2021. And I was super nervous because 2021, I was like, I wasn't the fittest. Like, I was having like some just kind of like asthma issues that were finally getting under control. And I was like, what if she drops me? How embarrassing. And then I was like, whatever, you know what? Just run as hard as you can. Like, so I was super nervous about that and felt pressure. Cause also like when you're like crewing and pacing someone, like John Kelly at Barclay is another one where it's like, dude, this is for like serious, you know what I mean? This isn't just like survive. This is like excel. And you want to be like, you don't want to do anything to mess up their like perfect day, or what could be a perfect day or whatever.
Yeah, when I was pacing this last weekend, I maybe had more nerves than before a race.
Oh yeah,
I was
your
so
own
stressed.
race. Once you start running, you're like, oh, it's fine.
Because it was like I didn't want to let him down. I had all this pressure. I also knew that like the worst thing could ever have happened is if I was a problem. You know what I mean? Like I didn't want to need something or, have the thing. And I'd been battling this injury.
Yeah.
And I was like, gosh, and it was knocking at the door. So in fact, it's why I'm injured this week is I rallied through it to run with him. But it was such a different perspective on that world of being more of the support thing. And I just think that's so interesting, kind of coming back to that idea you said of now having an opportunity to give and experience it that way. I think that's probably the coolest thing about the ultra community is that it really is a community, whether it's the crew or the pacers or the runners or the aid station volunteers or even the spectators, I can't think of another sport in the world that has that tight knit.
Yeah.
Like truly supportive, everybody, cheering for each other.
Yeah.
Community.
I mean, I do feel like off-road cycling is kind of like that. Just from, I live here. It's a huge cycling town. And one of our athletes, Ellen Campbell, is one of our, she rides for Specialized. She's Howard Grott's partner, who was just in that tree accident at the Breck Epic. And they seem super supportive. I mean, they're doing all what I think that would have happened in the ultra community. There's already a GoFundMe.
Right.
I mean, what else are they going to do right now? But I'm sure that he'll have all this support when he comes back to Durango. And so I think it's something about just like the trails.
I was just going to say,
it's
why?
Like, maybe not like that in road cycling. I don't know, but like we were just talking about this at work. My coworker's really got into cycling because he had a concussion kind of that's had long lasting kind of side effects of just running gives him headaches. So he's gotten into cycling. And he was noting how much friendlier off-road cyclists are than road cyclists. And maybe that's the same. I think it might be. I don't know.
Well, road races are definitely different than trail races, regardless of the distance.
Yeah.
Like whenever, even, like the road marathons, they're a little bit.
They're big. Some of them are really big.
And they're not, like every time I've ran an ultra, I've made a friend.
Yeah.
Like a true, like genuinely, like stay in touch, like,
you run 20 miles with them and then you keep in touch for 10 years.
Yeah, like lifelong friend. In fact, when I ran my 100, a guy that I met at a 50K came and paced me. Like, all these the real connections. I've definitely never had that on a road marathon or a road. So I wonder if that's.
I did. I met a girl I've met people in road marathons, but smaller ones. I met a girl, and now I'm blanking on her name. I think it was Jess. And we kept up for a while on Facebook. Like this was early. Like this was like 2010.
Yeah.
And we ran Richmond marathon like near each other for a while and kept up, and it was cool to see what she was doing. And whatever.
Right.
But I mean, social media is like as terrible as I feel like it is overall, like it's kind of cool to be able to keep up with someone that you ran a race with.
Yeah, it's the best thing.
Yeah.
I've been saying forever, I've said it many, many times about my philosophy on social media is that we shouldn't use it less, we should use it more intentionally.
Yeah.
Like I've loved how social media has been able to connect me with the ultra community.
Yeah.
And podcast guests, and I mean it's also how I grow my business.
Yeah,
but,
there's a lot of networking benefits to it.
Yeah, but I'm fascinated with that. I've contemplated that a ton of like, what is it about the endurance trail? Because I think you're right, definitely with mountain biking and the trail biking. What is it about it that makes for that community to be so tight knit and kind? Like I don't know if I've ever met a trail endurance athlete that I didn't like. Mm-hmm. And I've met a lot.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Someone. I don't know.
I'm just curious why that. And I know you don't have the crystal ball, but I'm just curious, like I wonder what the variable is.
Nature is just like I said, like healing and like it's. Yeah, I mean, maybe it attracts a certain kind of person.
And
maybe it's like
doing
a chicken or the egg
things.
thing.
Yeah.
Maybe you're not like a cool, nice person because you run trails, but you
run trails
cool
because
and nice,
you're a
and
cool,
then
nice person.
I don't have no
yes,
idea.
We figured it out.
Right?
Yes, it's not the fact that we're on the trail; it's the fact that we're already cool and nice.
Yeah.
We just go to the trail after. Yes. No, there might be some validity to that. That there's, and it's also people pursuing something meaningful.
Yeah.
And by nature, if you're doing that, you're probably a quality person.
Yeah. And I think ultras too, you're kind of like I don't want to compare it to the military and what the, people go through there, but in little kind of struggles, maybe like if you're struggling together, like brings you closer because you're like, this is some innate human nature thing that we have. Maybe that's why we had maybe that's why like primitive man like banded together in these groups is because like survival is hard and like it's better together and now we feel bonded as this family or something. I have no idea.
No, there's
you can get an anthropologist on or something.
I need to have if you know a good one, let me know. But because there's definitely something to that. Like lifting each other up and going through hard stuff together just bonds you.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious, like all of the experiences that you've had in the ultra world, outdoors, adventures, things like that. How has that impacted, or has it impacted your normal life? Like the way that you approach your career and things like that?
Yeah. I mean, there's hard days. You just kind of take it one day at a time or 1 hour at a time because that's what you do in a race. Like there's not every day is fun at work. Like it's work. There's fun days and you remember that. And that's why you're kind of like still there. But and just like problem solving, I think is like, I've seen a lot of people in different careers that I've had where like they're just not willing to problem solve and they're kind of like they give up easy. And I definitely don't do that. I don't know if it makes me better at my job, but it makes me kind of like look at new ways to like accomplish something.
Yeah.
So that might be just like a unique, there's a lot of stubborn, that to be successful in ultra running, there's problem solving the entire time. And then you have to be stubborn, I think.
Right.
Like, those are two key little things. You have to enjoy it, too. 'Cause,
Yeah.
like, otherwise you won't keep doing it. But most people maybe don't enjoy it during, but, like, there's something in our brain that erases the crappy parts, and you only remember, like, the good things.
Right.
Which is where I think, like, that's how people have multiple children.
Yeah.
It sounds terrible.
No.
Well, like people keep having kids because they just like don't remember that part,
Right.
Or
It, like,
it's
it
not
blocks it out.
important.
Yeah.
They remember it, but they're like, this is
Well, you know what it is that it was worth it.
yeah, right.
And I think with a kid, whether it's that or, running an ultra or sticking out the hard project at work
Yeah.
or, finding the new career, all these things in life, when they're worth it, you don't really remember the pain.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I wonder because the other thing is I've never really met like a casual ultra runner. Usually people are ultra runners. Like they're all in, like there's casual marathoners or, people that run that they're, and I wonder if that's because it's worth it. Like there's like for me, my favorite thing about ultras has been who it's turned me into. Like obviously I love the adventure of it. I was telling you about it when we were meeting for work the other day about how much fun I had at Silverton Alpine. It was almost type 1 fun. I just enjoyed the whole thing. But more than the fun, I've really loved like who it's forged me into. So I feel like you kind of nailed it there with the problem solving and the stubbornness because it's almost like when you have that hard day at work, it's not that hard. Because what you did last weekend was way harder.
Yeah.
I don't know if it like changes our perspective on what hard is. Even I don't know.
I mean, I think it's a challenge when you go to an ultra and you're like, okay, when things get hard, can I be the person I want to be, or will I let that bring out the worst in me? And sometimes it does. Sometimes you get to your career and you're like, I don't know, or can you just like. I think that's like a fun challenge in each race or even a long run. Like when you're just feeling like really terrible, you're like, can I keep things positive? Like maybe you're running with a friend and you're just like, I feel terrible. Can you like keep it going and like, not let that seep out or something?
I love that. When things get hard, can I be who I want to be?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Walk me through your mindset or like tips and tricks. Like one of the ones I'm fascinated about is the backyard ultra. Mostly because I've been really good about getting to the finish line. Like when I ran my 100, I have actually on video me telling my wife that I was injured at mile 12.
Oh no.
And we've said that, but I knew I was going to finish because I had to finish my first one. Once I'm signed up for my first one, I had to finish that one. And I probably could have made it to the finish line if it was at mile 105 or 110 or 95. But I knew I could like get to that defined line, whatever it is. I've always been kind of a goal guy, whether it's in ultras or life, like the milestone thing. I'm fascinated with the backyard format, which I've never experienced. I've done 24 hours and I've done, distance races, but because there is no finish line. And I want to get in your mind a little bit about how you handled that, because there's parallels. I've also been subscribing to some beliefs now in business that there's no such thing as winning business. The goal is to keep playing the game. The goal is to stay in business, which is different for me from a mindset perspective just on, longevity and
Well,
stuff.
everything changes. It's never going to be like, oh, I've succeeded. This is where I'm going to be. There's always like ups and downs. So like, if comes back to the stoicism where like I'm reading the Daily Stoic and every day it's this like, yes, you're at a high now, but it will get low. And it's just like accepting that. So like, yeah, that makes sense. Or you can't win in business because if you're up here, it doesn't mean you're either
for today,
die tomorrow, and
right.
you die up here.
Right.
But it's dead. Not going to stay up there, Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. So how do you handle like when you were doing the backyard specifically? I just want to get into your mind a little bit about how you kept going without a finish line.
Well, you know that it's going to end at some point, but that you will still be running till the end. It's really simple once you figure it out. And it was my buddy Johan who had won the previous year, and he's like, you just get in your mind when you start that he was exhausted when he got there. He lives in Sweden. He had a crazy trip over and ended up having to drive from DC to like Bell Buckle, Tennessee, got pulled over in the middle of the night. Like it was just crazy. And he was like falling asleep during the first day.
Oh gosh.
In his chair, which maybe helped him because he was falling right asleep. But I was like, there's no way he's going to make it. But he had already decided he's not quitting no matter what. So there was no decisions to make. Like, it didn't matter. So you just got through each lap. And then that sunk in for the training leading up to 2019. So there was literally there was no question. Like, I knew that I would keep going.
You knew you were going to win?
Well, I mean, I knew I would just keep going. Like, and then I didn't really think beyond that. Like, you just keep showing up to the start line and you just keep going. And there's so many factors there. I mean, you could have debilitating pains but I don't know, like everything just seemed to be on board. And so, I mean, yeah, that was it. It's a super simple concept. It's hard to get there though, because you have to start thinking that in training. You can't just go to the race. You can't train and not think about the race or not visualize things. You have to get there knowing already your brain's like, go, like you're just dialed and solid and everything is calm and like, you just keep going.
And I love, unpack that a little bit more for me, that there was no decisions to make because it was already, and that's from training the mind on that as well as obviously training the body.
Well, you did it. You're like at mile 12 injured already, but you're like, I'm finishing. So it's easy, right? Like you just have to get it done.
Right.
But there's no decision to make.
I love that though, like the decision, because I never framed it that way. Like for me, it was, I mean, I guess I have. When I was going into that, kind of my mantra was I have to just simply not stop.
Yeah.
Like if I just don't quit, I'll finish.
Yeah, exactly.
So it is sort of simple, but
and I guess you think you knew where the finish line was, but like, I knew it was going to end. You don't know where,
right?
But you have an end, and I had an end.
They're just
different.
But I knew where mine was.
Right.
Or I knew the distance at where it lied, I knew that the distance at least.
I was like, 5 days, 5 to now, whenever it could be, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and then you just kind of use like each night to look forward to like, oh, how am I going to react this night? And I never got to the third night, but I wanted to. I wanted to see what that third night was like.
You wanted to, genuinely?
Yeah, because everyone says that's even worse. Like the worst night is the third night. And then
that's so cool.
People hadn't gone over 4, but now it goes over 4.
It's crazy. So, yeah.
I don't know if it gets easier or not, but
who knows?
Yeah.
You have to go find out.
Yeah, eventually.
Yeah.
My Achilles needs to help me find out.
You're telling me. Though that's interesting though, and I'm curious, because now that you say that, I definitely had the same mentality. I wasn't able to articulate it until just now, because I've looked back. I shouldn't have finished the race. I shouldn't have started the race because I was so injured.
I mean, you did it now.
Yeah.
But maybe
and now I'm
not good advice for the future.
No.
Like the second one.
I actually last night was telling my wife, if I'm that injured, I won't do another one. But once
sense.
I start, I have to finish.
Right.
And the thought of not finishing literally never happened. Like I never had a moment of that I wasn't going to finish. Mm-hmm. It was just, how am I going to finish?
Yeah.
Like I'm in so much pain. I now that I've learned more, I had every problem you could have,
Yeah.
and I dealt with all of them.
Yeah.
And finished with a swollen face and blisters, and
Yeah.
stress fractures, and I mean, just like destroyed.
my
I had to get
gosh.
IVs when I was done. I was in
Yeah.
a coma for 3 days. Not a literal coma,
Yeah,
but
just
I was like out
pretty
of it.
out of it. Yeah.
But my point is that a similar mindset of just that, like the decision was already made.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
the starting
That's
line
exactly.
happened, it was. I'm just fascinated though that you were able to carry that for so long. But I wonder. I guess it's maybe just you have more experience.
I mean, it was a curiosity to see, I know I can do this. There's other things I know I can accomplish. I need a working Achilles to help me accomplish that. There's certain things, and I've even gone as far to be like, maybe this Achilles thing is psychosomatic, but it doesn't seem that way. I've tried to will it away, but yeah, just like keeping them, like having that curiosity of like, oh, what's next? This is a new PR. Like,
How do you stay so optimistic and excited? Because I share that sentiment with you. The statement you just said of that, I have so much I think I'm capable of, or there's so much that you want to accomplish, but the dang Achilles, it's there. I have that in business, in life, in running, in ultras, whatever. And generally speaking, I'm a very, very optimistic, positive person. But I definitely have times when I'm like frustrated, that it's just like, gosh, if I could have the good day, I think I could have a great day.
Yeah,
if I could pull. So I'm just kind of curious, like how are you staying so optimistic and excited? And we talked about how you've pivoted to you're doing these other adventures and biking and things like that. But do you get down? Do you get discouraged?
Yeah, I mean, it's super frustrating, which is why I went to the stoicism to find
Okay.
some answers.
See, now it's kind of coming together.
Yeah, but you got to focus on what you can do in the meantime, and create other adventures for yourself, or not focus on what you can't do or what you think you can do but you can't now, or
Right.
something like, and every day, and kind of make things more simple, and instead of being caught up in your head about the goal. And then my problem is I'm always like, what next, and I'm like so not in the moment, except when I'm running. Like, that's the only time. Although even sometimes we're running, we're like, I've been waiting months for this race, and now I can't wait to get to the finish line. It's it's crazy.
Right.
And so, like, sometimes I feel like I'm living my life like that. So I'm trying to, like, with this injury, just like today, I can run 3 miles comfortably, or today I can run 10 miles comfortably, or maybe not so comfortably, but I still did it. Or, and I'll also go lift today or something, like these physical things that you can do.
It's almost like finding joy in the journey, because I've struggled with that in my life and in running as well.
Yeah.
They call it the finish line fallacy, but like it's, I set these goals and I think like, okay, I get to that goal, then I'll be good.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm
right.
I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'm a happy person, but it's like, I get to that goal and then I'll be satisfied, or now I'll have my, now I'll feel proud, or
How
I'll
much
feel
money
rewarded.
is enough money that you're happy?
Right.
Like, do you think Mark Zuckerberg's like, I have enough money, like I don't need to keep doing this? Like,
Right.
No one does that. They're like, how can I get more money? Or like, and yeah, I mean, I care. I see, poor people say this, but I don't care about money. I just want to be happy. And you're like, well, I need this to be happy, or when I accomplish this, I'll be happy. And it's like, you just need to be happy now, because like you may never accomplish that, or there's so many. You just have to look at what you can do and what you have now. And that I don't do that every day. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm
You mean you're not perfect?
depressed and I can't go run Hardrock or something. But
But I think that's fascinating, because I've regularly tied my self-worth with my accomplishments.
we all do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like, how do you then shift that to be happy without the accomplishments?
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's like a day-to-day thing about what you have. And like, again, stoicism's about character. It's like controlling what you can control. We can't control the stock market. So if you have a bunch of money in the stock market and you lose a bunch of money, you can't control it. You can make educated decisions and like take money or whatever. I don't know anything about the stock market, but like you can control only how you react to the things that happen to you in your life. Like, like I can't control how the Achilles is. I tried to with my mind, but I can't. So I can only control like how I deal with it from day to day. I can mope around and not do anything and eat ice cream on the couch, or I can go do some physical activity that I can do, like deadlifting or,
right.
Bike riding or something.
Whenever I'm injured, I go, well, I'm just going to get ripped.
Yeah.
I'm just going to get
like
all buff.
A new goal.
And just lift
you make
a ton of
little
weights.
goals. Yeah. Like I'm going to lift this much for no reason.
But that's actually, you know what? I think that's why ultra running's so cool, because it teaches us those things that like we've got to run the mile we're in.
Yeah.
We have to deal with the problem we have right now.
Yeah.
We have to like, and we're just on and I think that the journey is long enough that you kind of have no choice but to deal with the problem that you're in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what a great little microcosm, and there's thousands of them with ultra running in life, but that's a good one right there you can only control what you can control.
Yeah.
If it's going to rain on you, or, when we were pacing at Leadville, Sean got in a pretty deep low while I was pacing him, and he was already talking about, pipeline and, these big climbs that were coming.
Thinking ahead.
And I'm like, dude, we're right here right now.
That's out and back.
Yeah.
That's hard. That's mentally hard.
But we're not at pipeline right now.
Yeah.
We don't have that problem yet, or we don't need to deal with that thing yet. Let's deal with what we've got right now. Yeah. So, and that's what's so cool about it is it's like and that's why I just think the battles with injury that you're having, because I relate to it so much, it's a little bit of a microcosm, but it's also where life and ultras, I think, overlap. Because for me, I need to run for my mind. Mm-hmm. My body right now needs me to stop because I'm hurt.
Yeah.
My mind needs me to go. And like overlapping those and figuring out, how to keep my mind and my soul charged while I let my body rest is very challenging.
Yeah, that's why you have to try different things and, I don't know.
Road bike on the river trail like I did today.
Yeah. I mean, and it might not be as good as running, but it's something.
Yeah. And again, that stoicism idea, it's just making the most of it and controlling what we can control and, choosing how we're going to respond to it, which I love.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me about what's next for you. Tell me what's on the horizon. You've kind of talked about goals and, I know that you're fighting the battles that you're fighting and these things like that, but I got to imagine you've got some stuff planned, got some stuff on the horizon.
After Hardrock and with like the pressure of like, feeling like you can't back off in miles, even though your Achilles, you're walking like just kind of limping around every day, I was like, okay, no more races. I just want to enjoy the summer. And if I need to kind of figure out this Achilles thing more drastically and kind of proactively.
Is surgery on the table?
I don't know. I was told that wouldn't help me, but I can seek other opinions, which I might maybe talk to someone at Stedman and Vail, which is like where they do all the athlete surgery things. But
have you ever looked into stem cells?
They're not the same, but someone else told me that. I don't know if there's anyone here that does it, but I did try Shockwave, which helped a lot. It does promote stem cell growth.
Interesting.
It's called StemWave, which my chiropractor has it. During Go Chiropractic has a machine, and that did help a lot. And I thought it would be a cure, but then once you kind of ramp the miles up, it kind of is hindering.
That's what I'm finding. If I can't get past 40 miles per week.
Yeah, it seems to be like 45 is like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I hit 90 during training for Hardrock. I was running 20, 30 mile weeks, and then I thought it was a gradual build, and I've had years of doing
You've got
this.
A pretty good base.
So I had like 55, 65, 70, 90, and then it was like, that was a lot, but I don't know.
So right now it's just enjoying it.
Yeah. I'm just hoping I have off next week. I'm doing a staycation, so I'm just hoping to get some mountain adventures in. And enjoy it going slow. I don't have to hammer downhill.
And like actually enjoy it.
Yeah.
I'm serious about engineer. Let me know.
Yeah.
I would totally join you in the dark and go get engineer done before work. I think that would actually be so much fun.
It is fun. I mean, it's pretty cool that you can do a 6 mile round trip mountain, here.
Yeah.
That is really cool.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
Yep.
Well, Maggie, thank you so much for your time, for your energy, for your insight, for your wisdom, for all of that stuff. And more, what I'm really grateful for is your perspective. So thanks for sharing it, because it's actually been super insightful. I've been really excited to be able to pick your brain, and I just feel I feel very grateful that I got to get some perspective from you and some insight. And so I just want you to know how much I've thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. I have a gift for you. It's a shirt that I forgot to set here. I think is maybe because I was nervous for this one, but anyway, it's over there, so I'll get it when we're off camera. But
Sweet,
it's one of my
thank
Inspired
you.
by Example shirts, because you really are inspiring by example, the life that you're living and the adventures that you're living, but also the mindset that you're bringing and the perspective and, the stoicism, but also the stubbornness and just all of these great things. I just want you to know that, the world needs more perspectives like that, and you really are inspiring. So I'm going to give you a shirt even though I don't have it right now. So thank you so much, though. And thank you so much for letting me pick your brain a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think you're giving me more credit than I deserve, but I enjoyed the conversation for sure.
Awesome. I appreciate it.
Thank you.